Money Control and Mire Asset Mutual Fund present Mutual Fund Banega Best Friend Forever. Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
Hello and welcome. You're watching MF Banega BFF on moneycontrol.com presented by Mire Asset Mutual Fund. मैं हूं आपकी होस्ट सोनल मेहरोत्रा कपूर. आज हम बात करेंगे एक ऐसे टॉपिक के बारे में जो हर इन्वेस्टर के पोर्टफोलियो को दे सकता है इंटरनेशनल विंग्स. वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट ग्लोबल इन्वेस्टिंग. आज के एपिसोड में हम ग्लोबल इन्वेस्टिंग के बेनिफिट्स और चैलेंजेस को समझेंगे, इंटरनेशनल मार्केट्स की डायनामिक्स को एक्सप्लोर करेंगे और जानेंगे कि कैसे आप अपने पोर्टफोलियो को दे सकते हैं ग्लोबल एक्सपोजर. लेकिन सबसे पहले एक नजर डालते हैं इंडियन म्यूचुअल फंड इंडस्ट्री के लेटेस्ट ट्रेंड्स और अपडेट्स पर. दिस इज एमएफ रनडाउन.
Money Control presents MF Rundown.
According to AMFI Factbook 2024, women investors now account for over 25% of individual investors and hold 33% of individual AUM. सेबी ने कहा है कि एसेट मैनेजमेंट कंपनीज AMCs द्वारा न्यू फंड ऑफर NFOs में कलेक्ट करे गए फंड्स को स्कीम के एसेट एलोकेशन के मुताबिक 30 बिजनेस डेज के अंदर डिप्लॉय करने का टाइमलाइन 1 अप्रैल 2025 से लागू होगा. From April 1st, investors seeking sophisticated avenues for higher returns can now invest in specialized investment funds, SIFs, a new category bridging mutual funds and portfolio management services with a lower entry point of 10 lakh rupees. All right, this brings us to the end of the MF Rundown segment, and it's now time to look at our topic of the day. It's on global investing. And let's move on to DIY MF.
Money Control presents DIY MF.
Now, इस टॉपिक को और अच्छे से समझने के लिए आज हमारे साथ जुड़ रहे हैं मिस्टर गजेंद्र कोठारी. He's the CEO of Etica Wealth. Hi.
Hello.
Thank you so much for being here. How are you doing?
Pleasure is mine. Thanks for inviting me.
Great. So, you know, on this program, Mr. Kothari, we've spoken about diversification a lot.
Correct.
But how can we look at global investing beyond just simple diversification? How should Indian investors think about sort of strategic allocation of international markets as a hedge against, say, domestic macroeconomic risks?
Absolutely. So first thing, since we are in India, we always have a home bias. We think we understand India much better, right? And we want to put all our money. Of course, India has done very well over the last 20, 30 years, as you can see from the returns, Nifty and Sensex. But I think one needs to look, as your portfolio becomes bigger, you need to diversify so that it becomes less risky. So at least I would say 20-25% should be global markets to begin with. And if you don't understand anything about global markets, then the best market to look is US markets generally, because that's around 3/4 or more than half the market cap of the world, right? And we all consume their products daily, whether it is Google, Apple, Facebook, you name it, and we are consuming every day. So why don't own these companies also? And that's where, if you don't understand anything in global market, just you can buy S&P 500. They are the best 500 largest companies of the United States. And they have done pretty well in the last 15 years. They've in fact beaten Indian markets in US dollar terms, right? So for an average retail investors, DIY investor, I would say 20-25% is a good bet to begin with. Then you can have something called tactical asset allocation in global markets as well. You can look out for countries or markets that have not done very well in the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years. I'll give you my example. Like last 5 years, I've been investing quite a good amount of money through SIP into emerging markets, which includes India, China, and all of those Asia Pacific markets. Because for the last 15 years, emerging markets have not done very well. So generally we see that one decade, is for emerging markets. Like 2000 to 2010, US markets didn't do well. Emerging markets did very well.
Yeah.
And post global financial crisis, emerging markets didn't do well at all. Global markets did very well. So all these larger markets have revert to mean, right? They cannot go on forever, keep scaling new highs. So when these are down and beaten, that's a time to get allocation to emerging markets. So tactical allocation, yes, emerging markets make sense. Maybe 10% of your portfolio can be in emerging markets.
Got it. So that's a good picture, like a good big picture to begin with.
Yes.
But people will have questions on currency fluctuation. They want to look at global investments के long-term returns किस तरह से impact कर सकते हैं, और करेंसी फ्लक्चुएशंस के इम्पैक्ट को कम करने के लिए इन्वेस्टर्स को कौन सी स्ट्रैटेजीज इवॉल्व करनी चाहिए?
एक अच्छा फ़ायदा क्या है ग्लोबल मार्केट्स इन्वेस्ट करने का कि आपको डॉलर वर्सेस जो रुपी का हम फ्लक्चुएशंस देखते हैं, मोस्टली डिप्रिशिएशन होता है हर ईयर 2 to 3%. लॉन्ग टर्म हम एवरेज देखें तो वो फ़ायदा आपको मिलता है. एज लॉन्ग एज रुपी इज डिप्रिशिएटिंग एंड इट कंटिन्यूज टू डिप्रिशिएट, तो यू विल गेट दैट 2% एक्स्ट्रा किकर, राइट? तो बहुत सारे इन्वेस्टर्स होते हैं जो दे वांट टू सेंड देयर चिल्ड्रन अब्रॉड फॉर स्टडीज़, ट्रैवल है, कुछ भी है, तो यू हैव टू पे इन डॉलर्स, सो दैट गिव्स यू अ हेज, एंड रिटर्न्स में किकर मिल जाता है 2 to 3%. सो दैट इज ऑल्सो गुड एडवांटेज. प्लस इनहेरेंटली दीज ग्लोबल कंपनीज हम देखें, दे आर नॉट यूएस सेंट्रिक कंपनीज. अगर हम S&P 500 की बात करें, दे हैव ग्लोबल मार्केट्स. सो यू आर नॉट पुटिंग योर मनी इन टू US. इफ आई एम saying that you're putting your money in S&P 500, you're putting into global market per se. तो वो भी safe है. So the best time to invest is if India is very high, which I feel right now it is over optimistic. We are over optimistic. Sensex has done pretty well post the conflict scenario also right now we see. So then rebalance it, put less into India and more into global so as to save. So you have to keep looking your asset allocation. The markets that have not done very well in the last 2, 3, 4 years should go more aggressive in those markets.
I understand that, but you know, it's a very simplistic way to say that look at markets which haven't performed.
Yes.
We are at a very evolving geopolitical scenario right now with Trump in office, with a lot of, wars taking place in different parts. How do you zero in on markets apart from just United States?
Absolutely. So, there is something called Mr. Market. As Ben Graham said in his book, Intelligent Investor, Mr. Market will give you price every day for everything, right? Sometimes Mr. Market is happy, he'll give you very high price. Like for US markets for the last 10 years, they've been quoting very high price. There are other markets where Mr. Market is not happy and, his mood is not very good. So he's giving you very beaten down prices. It's up to you to take it. So like China, for instance, last 3-4 years, since 2021, China has been on the down path completely. But you know that China is the second largest economy in the world, poised to become number one, maybe in 10, 20, 30 years, the way they are growing. If the fair value is 100 rupees, but because markets are beaten, Mr. Market is not willing to give you a good price, they're giving you maybe 30 rupees or 40 rupees to the 100 rupees. That's a fair discount to the fair value.
Right.
So as a retail investor, you should be a contrarian on the markets that have not done well. And there are a lot of charts. You can see which markets have done well across the years. I, as a capital allocator, always look out for those contrarian opportunities which markets have not done well. So just imagine 2 years, 23 and 24, Japan did very well. Why? Because last 5 years, Japan did very poorly. So if someone has invested in Japan, they would have made a lot of money, right? Similarly, Germany is now doing well because it didn't do well, this thing. So it's not a very difficult call to take, but the challenge is you need to have patience. It can take 1, 2, 3 years for your patience to play out.
तो हमने बात कर ली कि कैसे शॉर्टलिस्ट करने चाहिए, बट खरीदे कैसे? मोड ऑफ हाउ डू यू सी इट? इज इट जस्ट ट्रेडिशनल इक्विटी एलोकेशंस कि इसके अलावा कुछ म्यूचुअल फंड स्ट्रक्चर्स भी हैं जिसके थ्रू लोग इन्वेस्ट कर सकते हैं?
अभी पिछले 5 साल में बहुत सारे म्यूचुअल फंड्स ने इंटरनेशनल फंड्स लॉन्च किए हैं, फीडर फंड्स लॉन्च किए हैं. दिस इज द बेस्ट बेट फॉर एनी DIY इन्वेस्टर. आप जैसे नॉर्मल इंडियन म्यूचुअल फंड खरीदते हैं वैसे आप वहाँ का खरीद सकते हैं. सो अगर आपके पास जानकारी अच्छी है तो आप कंट्री स्पेसिफिक फंड्स में इन्वेस्ट कर सकते हैं. जापान, चाइना, बहुत सारे, ब्राज़ील है. बट एक DIY इन्वेस्टर को इतनी जानकारी नहीं रहती है, तो उनके लिए क्या होता है, ग्लोबल फंड ऑफ फंड में डालिए पैसा आप. लेट द फंड हाउस टेक द कॉल कि अभी कौन सा मार्केट्स अच्छे हैं. और एक अच्छी बात क्या है, जब आप ग्लोबल फंड में डालते हैं आपको पैसे निकालने की जरूरत नहीं है. यू कैन रिमेन इन्वेस्ट फॉर 10 years. सपोज आपने सिंगल कंट्री फंड डाला चाइना में और चाइना 3 साल में 50% बढ़ गया, देन यू विल एग्जिट, right? Because it's not a long-term buy call, it's a tactical call. You don't know. तो आप करोगे तो टैक्स लग जाएगा. And in international funds, you have to remember 2 years के बाद you have long-term capital gain of 12.5%. इस बजट में बहुत अच्छा हो गया था. Otherwise, it was fully taxed.
Yeah.
So now global investing becomes far more attractive. Individual funds में retail investors shouldn't put money to begin with. They should put money in a global fund. where let the fund manager take a call कि अभी China expensive है, US है, Japan है, किसमें कितना asset allocation डालना है, and they keep kind of rebalancing.
Right.
You can be a buy and hold investor for 10 years. And it gives you good diversification, and there's a fund manager who is actively looking at the global markets for you. One other good way is through the GIFT City route, where through your LRS, which every Indian can put around $250,000, a lot of fund houses are launching global funds through GIFT City. So it's very easy process online. You can wire your money, and they have global products like fund of funds or other markets, and you can invest through that route. That's an alternative to Indian mutual funds.
All right, those are some good tips over there. Thank you, Mr. Kothari. I wish I had more time. This is so
Pleasure.
interesting. And thank you so much for joining us on the program.
My pleasure.
All right, with that, it's now time to move on to the last segment of the show, MF Banega BFF.
Money Control and Mirae Asset Mutual Fund present Mutual Fund Banega Best Friend Forever.
Now, in this segment, we are here to sort of help you get a lowdown on how mutual funds actually operate, turning them into your ultimate financial buddy. And joining us today to shed some light on this very interesting topic is Vaibhav Shah. He's the head for products, business and strategy, international business for Mirae Asset Investment Managers India. Hi, how are you doing, Vaibhav?
All good. How are you?
Good. So we are very fascinated by this topic and we want to understand more.
Sure.
So for people who have just been exposed to global investing, what are the various ways to actually expose yourself to them? How do you access these global markets?
So as a resident Indian, there are a lot of ways that you can invest into global markets. One of the most simplest and easiest way is through the mutual fund route, right? Because you've got a good fund management team who will be able to choose underlying stocks to buy and decide which country to invest. So the most easiest and best way to invest into global markets is through the mutual fund route. A lot of HNI investors also invest into shares directly through their broking accounts. So using the LRS route, you can transfer every year $250,000 and directly buy sort of shares. And there are a lot of broking counters who provide investing into global markets. So that's a sort of a second option. And third, I think, like Gajendra pointed out, another beautiful opportunity which is opening up is through the GIFT City route. So the GIFT City is providing investors an access to invest globally and in some of the best strategies as well. So like the MF route, which provides you access to global markets, GIFT City also provides you access to global markets. The only difference between MF and GIFT City is that the GIFT City route requires you to invest through the LRS route. And you have to follow the LRS limits to invest, but you again get the same access to
Could you
investing.
expand on that? What exactly are the limits in both cases?
Sure. See, in mutual funds, you had a limit of $7 billion, which you could use to buy stocks, and $1 billion for buying ETFs. This limit has been sort of exhausted for the last couple of years. So for many fund houses, including ours, in case an investor wants to buy our funds, they are not able to access investing because the sort of limits are utilized. And hence, we are not able to accept retail applications in those products. Through the GIFT City route, the advantage is that these limits on what a fund house can raise don't apply. So technically, they can raise as much money as they want. The only limit is for a resident individual. They can remit, as per the LRS route, $250,000 per person per year.
Right.
So the individual has to take care of his personal limit while investing. But on the industry limit, there are no limits which the industry needs to worry on. And that's why many fund houses, including ours, are planning to launch GIFT City funds to provide access to global markets.
Right, interesting. I was asking this question to Gajendra as well. How are you then, as a manager, looking at such a wide portfolio? Then, how are you looking at countries and markets? What kind of calculations are you guys doing?
No, so the point that we need to understand is India is just maybe 4.5-5% of the world's GDP, right? So if you look at this, 95% of the opportunities are not available in India. And if you have a very large part of your portfolio, in each case, for most resident Indians, more than 95 or 100% of their portfolio
Largely
is in India.
Yeah.
You're taking one country risk. You're taking one view that this market will only go up. And there are no interesting opportunities available globally. And like Gajendra mentioned, there are enough and more companies which are sort of doing very well globally. In fact, some of the largest companies globally are bigger than the market cap of India itself, right? So it just tells you that through global investing, you can get access to different countries, different themes which are not present in India. And that makes job of investing very, very interesting. And as fund house, you can provide investors, bouquet of products or services that they can look at. And investors can be spoiled for choice, actually, when they look at investing. Maybe I just wanted to add a couple of things here, is that, the things which are the future of the world are themes like semiconductor, AI, genomics, artificial intelligence, all these themes. If you were to look at the listed space in India, you don't find any company of large size and scale in India. So if you can pick these themes early and you want to sort of maximize your wealth, you don't have those options available in India. And hence, as an investor, it makes sense to invest globally and expand your, basket to best companies available globally. So as fund management team, as well as retail investors, there are enough choices you can look at.
I think it's a good way to look at it, to see that what are the shortcomings within the Indian market where perhaps you're not doing very well, and then sort of balance out your portfolio on a global spectrum. I think that's a good way to go about it. The other big question when it comes to investing is actually big on taxation. People are worried that there will be, double taxation from that country here.
Right.
How exactly does it work, if you could break it down for us?
See, thankfully, what has happened after the budget last year, taxation has become very, very simple for global investing. So earlier, global funds were considered as debt funds, and they used to be taxed at marginal rate, in spite of, being by nature an equity product. Now, after the change in the budget, if you invest in global markets or stocks and your holding period is greater than 2 years, your tax rate falls to 12.5%. So at 12.5%, you are indifferent whether you're buying Indian stocks or you're buying global stocks.
True.
So you are sort of indifferent on the taxation part. The only point is that your holding period in Indian equities is 1 year. In case of global equities, is about 2 years.
All right, we'll leave it there. Vaibhav, thank you so much for joining us again and sharing all those insights. With that, it's a wrap on this episode of MF Banega BFF. We'll see you soon in the next one. Until then, stay updated, keep visiting moneycontrol.com and invest smartly. Bye-bye.
Money Control and Mire Asset Mutual Fund present Mutual Fund Banega Best Friend Forever. Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.